Hello to everyone present. I want to thank Prenatal Alliance for inviting me to participate in this new edition of the 3-day Prenatal Wellness Virtual Summit. My name is Raquel Machín, and my training and professional career have mainly been as a musician and music educator, with a specialization in prenatal singing and music in the cradle. However, for the past few years, I have been focusing my work and research on prenatal existence, specifically on understanding prenatal consciousness and near-birth experiences, which include phenomena of extrasensory prenatal communication. I share this knowledge and the interviews I conduct with teachers and key figures from various fields of knowledge on my YouTube channel, Antes de Nacer, Before Birth, and my podcast, Antes de Nacer, Before Birth. Introduction. As a result of my own experiences with extrasensory prenatal communication, I have delved into the search of the origin of human consciousness. I have established a necessary parallel between the process of birth and the process of death to approach the nature of human consciousness from a broader perspective. I have explored this topic by interviewing great masters from all schools of thought, spirituality, and science, and I have read it out directly to mothers to understand what experiences they have lived through, how frequently they occur, and how they have been affected. Today, in light of the evidence of the transcendence of human consciousness in the context of the birth process, I present my conclusions, which carry ethical implications for everything related to the process of motherhood and childbirth. Thank you. The origin of the research, personal experiences. A few years ago, when I decided to become a mother, together with my partner, I began to experience events that were deeply significant to me and helped me to endure the long and challenging journey of motherhood, which was marked by problems for some time. During that period, and in the following years, my life revolved around this motherhood and the development of my career as a music educator. However, after some years and with a bit more personal time, I rekindled my interest in the more spiritual aspects of myself and began a master's degree in extrasensory perception. When the opportunity to conduct research presented itself, I didn't hesitate to direct my efforts towards the experiences I had personally gone through before and during the pregnancies. I started to wonder if other people had experienced similar events and if there were studies about it. I needed to gather these manifestations that mother experienced or perceived and find out what their origin was. Background. Thus, I found myself within the cultural and religious context most familiar to me, encountering the biblical enunciations scattered throughout the Old and New Testaments. The most well-known annunciation, which has inspired many great works of art, is when the angel Gabriel appeared to the Virgin Mary to announce that she was carrying the Son of God. But I also found other annunciations, like the one delivered by the same angel to her husband Joseph, and those experienced by Sarah, Abraham, Zacharias, and Elizabeth, where the arrival of Saint John the Baptist, or Isaias, was foretold. My interest grew when I discovered that in Yoruba mythology in Africa, Shango was dreamed of by his mother Jemaya, the deity of water. In Hinduism, it was Krishna himself who revealed his coming to these earthly parents, Devaki and Vasudeva, informing them that he could be born as their son to free the world from Kamsa's oppression. As I continued my search, new names emerged: Santa Teresa, Saint Gemma Galgani, Saint John Bosco, and Saint Francis of Assisi within the Christian context, or Mahavira in Jainism. All of them were dreamed of by their mothers. Since I was focusing solely on the spiritual realm, I decided to broaden the scope. Beyond religions and up to our present day, I found that Romulus and Remus were dreamed of by their mother, the Vestal Virgin Rhea Silvia. In the Inca Empire, Pachacuti was dreamed of by Mama Oclo. The same happened with Napoleon Bonaparte, Confucius, Abraham Lincoln, and Martin Luther King. Dreams of future babies have been present throughout time, and in fact, in Australia until recently, it was believed that if a father didn't dream of his future child, the woman wouldn't become pregnant. In this tradition, the spiritual fatherhood of the father who dreams of his spirit child prevailed over biological fatherhood. And this ability to dream of spirit child has been diminishing as Aboriginal populations have come into contact with the modern world. These facts were available to anyone, and yet I quickly realized that we were overlooking the opportunity to gather all this information and seek out experiences or truths underlying these phenomena throughout history and across cultures. In our context, did this only happen to the mothers of famous children, saints, or founders of civilizations? Could there be mothers like me, ordinary people, who experienced annunciations, but whose experiences were simply not documented? Research. This led me to understand that it was time to conduct research that collected and unified all these experiences and concepts about the origin of human consciousness, drawing from three fundamental fields of knowledge: spirituality, philosophy, and science. In the realm of spirituality, I explored major religious traditions like Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Islam. But I also incorporated other movements that are often overlooked, such as spiritualism, shamanism, Celtic spirituality, or practices close to the New Age, like regressive therapy and transpersonal psychology. To gain a more direct approach, I interviewed key figures from all these traditions. Although there were differences, all of them acknowledged the transcendence of human consciousness. I approached philosophical perspectives by exploring the main Western schools of thought, seeking the advice of philosophy specialists, and conducting interviews with them. The views were divided into three main groups. At the extremes were materialism and metaphysical idealism, with dualist positions occupying the middle ground. In addressing science, I traced the origin of the prevailing materialistic paradigms back to Descartes and Newton's mechanistic vision, leading to dominant approaches in biology and neurobiology, physics and chemistry, and embryology. But I also explored post-materialistic science with new concepts like Erwin Laszlo's cosmos as a conscious entity, and the idea of non-local consciousness, which approaches the transcendence of the human being. Related studies. At a point in my research, I understood that the answer I was seeking for the experiences that others and I had lived during the maternity process could not be found within ultra-materialistic views of reality, as we were starting from fundamentally different concepts about what an embryo is. The embryo as a physical mental entity in the process of formation, local consciousness, and the embryo as a conscious entity in the process of incarnation, non-local consciousness. I then turned to researchers related to prenatal sciences, whose approach to biology or psychology goes beyond the conventional. Among these prominent figures, I found Dr. Thomas Berni, Dr. Jaap van der Waal, Dr. Akira Ikegawa, and researcher Sarah Hines, among other notable experts, who affirmed that the prenatal experience is profoundly significant even before the brain is fully formed. And this deeply resonated with near-death experiences and non-local consciousness. Near-death experiences, comparison between near-death and near-birth experiences. In the next few minutes, I will establish a comparison between near-death experiences and near-birth experiences. I have in-depth knowledge on the research on near-death experiences with authors such as Dr. Kubler-Ross, Raymond Moody, Evan Alexander, Bruce Grayson, and Pim van Lommel, among others, as well as the work of the International Association for Near-Death Studies, the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, and the Scientific and Medical Network, which approach these topics with an open scientific perspective. Since the 70s, all of them have been seeking explanations for the implications of these experiences and others, such as shared near-death experiences or terminal lucidity in cases of severe brain deterioration. As I explored the studies by prenatal science researchers, and as I began my own research, which I will mention later, I became aware of the significant parallels between near-death and near-birth experiences, the process of birth and death, and the positive underlying explanation in both cases. I then understood that if I wanted to study the process of the incarnation of consciousness into the physical body, I should do so comparatively with the process of death in all its aspects. Before speaking about near-death experiences, I would like to offer you a brief summary of what near-death experiences are. As I mentioned, both events should be understood as two manifestations of the same process, the establishment, disconnection of the relationship between consciousness and the physical body. A near-death experience is a set of sensations, perceptions, and experiences reported by people who have been near death or in situations of clinical death but have survived. Those who recount them describe moments when their cardiac or brain activity temporarily ceased or was in a critical state. They can also occur during depression, meditation, end-of-life experiences, or in other circumstances. Their main characteristics are numerous, although it is not necessary for all of them to occur for an experience to be considered a near-death experience. Let me mention just a few. Detachment from the physical body, movement through a tunnel, encounter with beings or entities, encounter with a barrier or limit, return to the physical body. Recent research or near-death experiences by authors mentioned above, like Evan Alexander, leads to a close connection with the theory of non-local consciousness proposed by Dr. Larry Tuzzi. This theory suggests that the mind or consciousness is not confined to the brain or the body, but can extend beyond, connecting with other individuals, the environment, or even the universe. For this reason, when the brain ceases to function during near-death experiences, an individual's consciousness still has the capacity to gather visual, auditory, or other types of information, or is able to remember. Consciousness continues to operate even with heightened sensory perception at a time when, theoretically, it should not be functioning during the brain's non-operation. In my view, this is the most crucial point in these studies, as it brings us closer to a multidimensional concept of the human being, understanding them as a being whose consciousness transcends physical reality. Comparison of near-death and near-birth experiences. Now, let's dive deeper into the comparison between near-death and near-birth experiences. The first step is to define the terms used, the phenomena they encompass, and who the subjects of each of these experiences are. Several authors have focused on experiences surrounding the birth process, each concentrating on different aspects and using different terms. For Stanislav Grof, near-birth experiences occur before, during, or shortly after birth and may report mystical or spiritual experiences. Grof focused on the near-birth experiences of the newborn, perinatal memories, and their influence on later psychological development. On the other hand, Sarah Hines coined the term pre-birth experiences to refer to experiences lived by both the mother and the unborn baby from before conception until after birth. Visions, dreams, telepathy, hearing, flashbacks, and déjà vu. The research team led by Mary Julia Guiter refers to near-death experiences as phenomena of intentional communication with an hypothetical prenatal consciousness. Meanwhile, researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson, Jim Tucker, Akira Ikegawa, Brian Weiss, and Thomas Newton have focused on understanding prenatal existence through what we call prenatal memories, which range from recollections of the gestation period to moments before conception, the space between lives, or past lives before the current one. We understood that if in near-death experiences we have a subject, a person who experiences the near-death, in near-birth experiences, there are two main subjects, the mother and the unborn baby. Taking these two subjects into account, the study of near-birth experiences encompasses all extrasensory experiences lived by the mother, facilitated by her potential altered state of consciousness, from before conception and until after birth, and or those later remembered by the unborn child. They are part of the same process and should be studied independently, yet they are interconnected. They are two sides of the same coin. Prenatal memories, with the unborn child as the protagonist. Extrasensory prenatal communication, with the mother as the protagonist. Comparison of near-death and near-birth experiences. Near-death experiences provide evidence of the non-local consciousness, since near the moment of death, with a deteriorated or non-functional brain, we can still remember or perceive what happens in the room or even outside of it. But if this consciousness transcends and does not tie with the physical body, where does it originate? If we understand the process of death as a transition of consciousness from the physical plane to another, shouldn't we interpret the birth process as a transition of this consciousness from that other reality to the physical plane? If death is the detachment or separation of body and consciousness, then somewhere between conception and birth, incarnation would be taking place, meaning the union of that consciousness with the physical body. Following this parallel, and thanks to the theory of non-local consciousness, we could explain how individuals with an as yet unformed brain can recall very early moments of their prenatal existence, or even conception and past lives. From this perspective, we could affirm that both types of consciousness, prenatal and premortal, are undergoing a transition. Both could be seen as liminal consciousness. As such, they recount experiences that are remarkably similar or identical at the threshold of this transition. Once we outlined the research we wanted to conduct, we clearly focused on the question we needed to ask ourselves. How can we demonstrate the existence of that prenatal consciousness that is making a transition to this plane or is in the process of incarnation? Through its manifestations. We conducted a quantitative, retrospective, and descriptive study that explored extrasensory prenatal communication. A sample of 84 Spanish-speaking women who had been pregnant at some point in their lives, regardless of whether their pregnancies reached full term, were surveyed. They completed 124 questionnaires, as each one corresponded to a specific pregnancy. The ages ranged from 25 to 69 years. The study was developed by Raquel Machín and conducted through Google surveys in November 2023. It was distributed on social media via a direct link to the participants' mobile phones or email. The structure and items were specifically designed for this study with no references and are based on the author's personal experiences and ancient bibliographical references. Through these questions, we explored pregnancy data, whether the respondent had any type of extrasensory perception related to their future child before and during pregnancy, as well as during childbirth, what these perceptions were and how frequently they were experienced, the level of emotional spiritual well-being experienced by the participants, whether the perceptions experienced helped or eased the pregnancy childbirth. Results and conclusions. The research conducted and the results obtained from the questionnaire show, as suggested by different spiritual perspectives and presented studies, that prenatal existence is more significant, profound, and transcendental than previously thought decades ago, and is felt with experiences and communicative acts. The woman reported feeling that they were in a different mental state than usual, 75%, experiencing a greater connection with themselves, 71%, and with nature, 43.5%. This altered state of consciousness may have enabled extrasensory prenatal communication and other extrasensory experiences, such as premonitions, 29%, a sense of the presence of beings of light, 18.5%, lucid dreams, 29%, or dreams of deceased individuals or any other phenomena. 31.4% of the participating women dreamed of their unborn baby before pregnancy, with 13.7% having these dreams more than 3 times. 41.93% dreamed of the unborn baby during pregnancy, with the 17.1% more than 3 times. 11.2% of women received messages in dreams and 23.38% in other ways. 30.64% had visions of their unborn baby before conception and 32.25% during pregnancy. 5.64% knew they were going to lose their baby, and 2.41% dreamed about it. The only study with which we can compare the percentage of mothers who dream, 31.4%, is the one conducted by Tucker in 25, which mentions 22% of 1,100 cases before and during pregnancy. Although the data is not directly comparable, since 1,100 cases of reincarnation are analyzed, which always implies the birth of the baby. At some point during this extensive investigation into prenatal existence, we must accept that if the embryo does not have a formed nervous system or brain, but is still recording experiences and communicating with the mother in different ways, it must be something more than just a collection of cells and tissues that we can observe, measure, or analyze. Prenatal consciousness, non-local consciousness, is present even before conception, and the mother is or acts as the entry portal. Understanding birth and death as interconnected processes and studying them in parallel is essential for understanding the nature of human beings and their existence in the physical plane. We cannot separate them because both frame this physical existence. Although we consider this study a preliminary approach, both due to the sample size and the room for improvement in the questionnaires, we are certain that it offers enough evidence to encourage more detailed, in-depth, and extensive research. This is similar to the study of consciousness during the death process, which enriched over time and became a subject of study as the decades progressed. There are still many aspects to explore, such as intentional extrasensory prenatal communication, or the mother's altered state of consciousness after childbirth and during child rearing. I would like to take this opportunity to request the collaboration of those listening to this conference by completing the questionnaire displayed on the screen. Likewise, I would like to reach out to other researchers to contact me and establish collaborations. I want to tell you one more time, thank you for being here, thank you for inviting me, and I feel grateful with this invitation, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.